See, we are not in our normal setting. I, of course, am here in the studio. That's unfortunate, but David Tall is not. He literally just landed in Israel. He just got back to his hometown, like literally maybe an hour ago. Isn't that right?
Well, no. I'm going to be fair. About 3 hours ago.
Are you drinking Turkish coffee right now? I just watched you take a swig of that. I'm jealous. Is that?
Yeah. The whole idea here was to make you jealous a little bit.
It's not fair. That's rude. Okay. You're trying to torture me. It's enough already that you're somewhere where I want to be. But this is going to kick off about, 3 months for you?
No, more. 8 months.
Oh, you're going to...
It's been... well, how long we're going to be here?
Yeah, how long you're going to be there? 2 months. Okay, don't scare me, man. Don't scare me. I mean, I appreciate you being in Israel, but I don't want to see you being gone that long. That's for sure.
2 months.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, let's do this very quickly, and then we're going to get into some updates from you.
Oh, we got a lot to talk about now.
Oh, I know. A lot of stuff. So let's do this. Let me just go over very quickly some of the super chats and super stickers. I just want to thank you guys because I'm going to tell you this right now. They do make an absolutely huge difference. And you guys are a blessing when you kick them my way. I'm always scared to read Brad's. Brad has a reputation of getting me in trouble. So, all right, here it is. Let's read Brad's at the first one. Pray for me, everybody. This is scary when I read Brad's super chats. He said, hey, y'all see where Gavin started a podcast? Big Mike did too. Don't worry. Y'all didn't lose me to the weirdo in Costa Mesa, and you won't lose me to these clowns either. I don't know what to say about that. Did you see the... I cannot read his second one. Brad, you're going to get me busted. You're just going to get me busted. Let me read his third one. Just to clarify, I am an excellent singer, but in the words of the band Genesis, I can't dance. I don't even want to get into that with the tranny reference. I'm not even going to read it. It's a scary reference. And then, let me see here. Brad says, Dean, you owe me $5. I told you, bro, David and bro James wouldn't do the show today with ponytails and a cane. They would be censored. Oh, he's beating up on Al Green. Al Green deserved it. That guy is not a good guy.
Oh, what was that? I mean, what was his issue?
He's a joke. He's just a joke. He thought that he was making a point by acting like a complete fool and making history yet once again at a State of the Union. The guy was a complete joke. And the people of his state ought to be embarrassed. They really ought to be embarrassed.
He is a representative of what state?
I believe Texas. And he ought to be embarrassed. He really, I mean, he ought to be ashamed. The kind of fool that he made of himself is it's just terrible. And I don't know. It was just absolutely embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. And I think he should be ashamed of himself. It was terribly bad. And if I remember correctly, I mean, I could be wrong. I'd have to go look it up, but I think it's the 9th District, which they've always been somewhat of a leftist sideliner, but I don't know. It's embarrassing. Let me read a couple of these other ones, and then we could go on beating him up. He deserved it. I'm glad he got censored, by the way.
What does that mean, censored, though? I mean, I don't know your political system.
Basically, it's an open act of condemnation. It really technically doesn't mean anything other than he was pretty much spanked by the Congress. So they basically said he was out of line.
But what I did see is he gets his friend together to sing "We Shall Overcome."
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The whole "We Shall Overcome." He made it all about a racial discrimination thing, and it's just absolutely crazy.
Everything becomes a racial. I mean,
I know.
Remind me to push the Gal Gadot button and the Rachel Zegler thing. I don't know if you've covered that.
Oh, no, I haven't. I have not covered it, but we should probably talk about it.
Yeah, we should. And,
okay.
And let me put it together.
Okay, we'll do it. Okay, Susan O'Leary, you say, is it just me or does David look like Obi-Wan Kenobi in that picture? Hoping everyone is doing great. That is. It's a good Obi-Wan. I like that.
Well, thank you for that amazing
I think it's a great
compliment.
compliment. I think it is.
Let
Okay,
the
we're gonna get
force
involved
be
in
with you.
yeah, and we're gonna get in the middle of a Brad and Dean argument here. Dean is saying out loud, Brad Bunn, I don't know what you are smoking, bro. Their hair has never been long enough to do. I don't even know what they're talking about. Uh, they're gonna get me in trouble. Becky Miller, thank you. We appreciate you too. God bless you. And then let's see. I think Pookie has something here. He says, "Good morning, James and David. This will get your goat. LA County targeting church at Redondo Beach. Say that they are only allowed to congregate 6 times a year in Redondo Beach. They have contacted the ACLJ."
Redondo Beach, I've been there.
Yeah, these dummies don't learn their lesson. They don't learn their lesson. They just don't.
No, but they did get smacked, James. And I think, again, maybe this is something that we need to talk about. The momentum has changed.
I know.
The momentum has changed, and there's a lot of things that are kind of moving differently. And I think it's now my question is this though, and maybe that's towards the middle of this, but let's talk about what our role is in this new environment.
Oh, there's a lot to say about that, especially on the Mideast side.
Okay,
Especially there's a lot to say about that.
And then I see Charlie sitting down with Newsom.
Oh yeah, that was a great conversation. Newsom, you could tell that Newsom is running towards the middle because he wants to be the next president of the United States. Barchin says, "May the force be with you."
You want to hear it in Hebrew? Shakoch yedcha.
Do it one more time.
Shakoch yedcha. Don't choke up on that one.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Where do we start, bro? There's a lot to start. There's a lot.
I'm going to put an overall umbrella on this. Israel literally has had combat, kinetic, explosive issues on four different fronts right now. Literally, we're fighting the war. There's a shooting war on 4 fronts right now, and this is a time of quiet, relatively. And we're about to go into a shooting war on a 5th front. And so what I'm trying to say is this: Israel's taking the gloves off. Enough. We will mold our environment to fit our security needs. We have the backing of the United States of America, which means we can do things that we couldn't do in the past with other regimes and other governments. And in this situation, Israel is saying we will be taking the gloves off and deciding how it's going to work. And I can go through the list of what we're doing and where we're doing it and how we're doing it. And again, I think this is a major shift. As a result, or part of the shift, or as a result of the shift, we have sidelined the appeasers in our military, Shabak, and government, and the hawks have taken over in our government, and Bibi has done that. Well, I hope so too. By the way, we can talk about the new chief of staff because I kind of done a little bit of digging, and I've actually talked to people who have served above him and under him, so we get a little bit of an understanding about that.
That was something that we definitely were going to do before this conversation ended, because I, from all intents and purposes and what I hear and what I know, I hear he is going to be a rock star. I hear he's going to do a very, very good job. That's what I'm hearing. Now, I could very much be wrong, but my understanding from somebody that I talked to earlier was that he was a tank commander, and when he was a tank commander, he actually oversaw a whole regiment. He was let's just say he was very, very aggressive and very sympathetic towards the cause of his troops. He was very, very friendly towards his towards his, meaning he was a good leader. He cared for his people first.
Yes. Okay. So the word that I'm getting from my guys. Okay. First, he's a tank commander. By the way, you look on his uniform. He's got a little tank. I walked around with one of those. That means though two things. And again, this is I think another indication of where Israel is going from a military point of view. There is a difference between infantry and armor. There is a difference between special forces and armor. Special forces dance. Armor is brute strength. And I think what I'm trying to say is this: Israel has realized that we need to go back to being make Israel strong again, make Israel great again. And I think that Zamir is a result of that. Yes, and maybe I'll give you one illustration. Company commander school. I did company commander school before I finished my military service, and I was probably meaning I commanded the company for almost a year before I went to the actual school for company commanders. So I'm at company commander school. We're down in the South, and you've got these exercises, and you got to take this hill, you got to take this position, and you go through this whole. Okay, I'm going to put a suppressive fire here, and I'm going to use the artillery here, and the enemy has this and this and this and this, and then they kind of surprise you on this way. One of the ways I took or I won one of my engagements was basically saying from the moment they said go, I put all of my 11 tanks into gear and we raced down the middle of the valley. Now, theoretically, you're taking a chance on this, but the enemy was completely surprised. They thought they were looking for us on this, they were looking for this, they were trying to find out where there weren't strikes. And by the time they got it together, and again, I did lose 2 tanks on the way. But by the time they got it together,
what do you mean you lost 2 tanks on the way? Meaning they stalled or they were blown out?
They were blown up. We fight these battles with okay, a quick this. We fight these battles with Humvees that have a fiberglass turret that fires lasers instead of armor.
I see.
And all of the tanks have these lasers that you fire and have these sensors that if you're fired at and you get hit, then a smoke grenade goes off and you get your whole system closes down. Now it's all hooked together.
How fast do these tanks go when they go full speed?
Well, Merkava will hit probably 30, 40 kilometers an hour. By the way, that's scary to see them moving like that.
Oh, I can imagine.
And here's the thing. The modern tanks can fire on the move, meaning they are stabilized. The main gun is gyroscopically stabilized in such a way that if I put it on the target, the tank can go left, up, down, and the gun stays on the target.
Yeah.
So basically that allows me to fire on the move. And what I'm trying to say is this. Sometimes you need to do it carefully. Sometimes you need to put this. But sometimes you put your head down and you smash through. And
I want you to say it that way one more time. Because I'm going to rewind this one day on the video. Sometimes you have to just smash through.
Well, you put your head down and you just go through. By the way, you've seen this in football. I mean, everybody goes to one side and you do something like, and again, but what I'm trying to say is this. Israel has fought these special forces wars too many times. And we've forgotten what it is to be an armored fist smashing into the enemy. I'm glad to say that our new chief of staff is a tank commander that understands that. By the way, he pulled off a surprise exercise on the whole Southern Command the week after he came into his position. The
No
guys,
kidding.
yeah. And what he's saying is this. He says Israel has forgotten what it's like to be a soldier. We thought we were dancing in the politics and dancing in anything. He's already checked out all the commanders that were politicians, so called, made it very clear that none of his commanders talk to any of the politicians. They have nothing to do with the politics of anything, and so forth and so on. I mean, yes, he has gone back to the old way of fighting wars. And I think Israel has understood that this is what we need more than anything. We need to be able to just smash the enemy where the enemy is. And what's been going on in the last couple of days has been good. By the way, did you hear the stories about Nasrallah? What happened to Nasrallah after the pager attack?
A little bit. Not much. As a matter of fact, when I started hearing some of the talk about that, because they just released some of the intelligence on him pretty much falling apart, going crazy and crying all the time and
Yep.
not being himself and panicking and all
He
of
went
that.
he went into clinical depression.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I thought that would be something that we would talk about, because I know that they released that information, I want to say like 5 days ago, 4 or 5 days ago. They actually, I don't know if this is true, David. Maybe you can confirm this, but they have some video and audio of it.
Yeah, they do.
So I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's going to be released into the mainstream.
Well, I'll tell you what.
He was already acting a little crazy, by the way.
Most of the information came from his daughter and his son.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. There were a couple interviews, one with his son and 2 interviews with his daughter. Well, where she said that the pager attack literally broke him. And as a result of that, I mean, he was talking to the doctors. James, the wounding of those 3,500 at least, if not more, were terrible wounds too.
Oh yeah. Oh,
these people are gonna walk around scarred and mutilated, in the public eye. That is as much of a blow to the honor, which is a very, very special issue.
Oh yeah, that had to have been the case. I mean, we already know that. I mean, just the insanity alone of how serious that attack was and how much off guard everybody was taken. I mean, it was just amazing. It was just amazing. And then at the funeral of Nasrallah, you saw the footage of those F-35s flying by. Israel's not messing around.
Which is basically what I think most people should understand about Israel right now. Israel's not messing around, and we can talk about what's going on in Syria. We can talk about what's going on in Lebanon. We can talk about what's going on in Jenin. I was in Jenin many, many times. They're back in Jenin again. And then go on to the hostage if you want to.
Okay, so why don't we talk about some of the immediate stuff? Because there are some immediate issues to talk about. Do you want to start with Syria? Because Syria is becoming another hotbed of a problem. And it's not even in the Mount Hermon area, which, look, there's already some issues going on there that I think is interesting in terms of what's happening with respect to a permanent base being set there and so on and so forth. I think the international community is going to leave that alone for now. But the bigger news, and I don't know if you can confirm this for me, but the bigger news that I'm hearing is that Israel is beginning to peek into the ear of Russia, asking Russia to help keep in control some of the issues that are going on right now in Syria, specifically with the concerns with HTS and some of the other factions. Can you speak to that at all?
Let's go back. Okay, everybody needs to understand that Syria is not a real nationality. There never was a Syrian nationality. In 2 words, during World War I, before the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the British and the French sat down and made an agreement how to divide up the remains of the Ottoman Empire. It's called the Sykes-Picot Agreement. And they took a map of the Middle East and they drew maps with lines that go this way and created most of the nation states that we know in the Middle East today. Syria, Iraq, Jordan, were all created by this Sykes-Picot Agreement. So at the end of World War I, when the Ottoman Empire completely fell apart, all of a sudden now you have a nation called Syria, where wasn't there before. Now, the problem is that when you draw lines on the map in London, you don't take into consideration what's happening on the ground. So what they did is they created a Syrian nation out of a lot of different minorities that have nothing in common. Not only do they have nothing in common, they hate each other.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the Sunni, the Shiite, but there's a lot of smaller factions in the Middle East that a lot of people don't really know that are still in the Middle East that are part of these dynamics. I'll give you one very, very interesting one, and that is Christians, traditional, very, very ancient versions of Christianity, the Syriac Christianity and the Armenian Christianity, and the some of the Christians actually still speak ancient Aramaic in Syria. Okay, so these different factions. We talked about the Druze. The way I kind of tend to, Druze is an offshoot of Islam. Like Mormons moved away from Christianity, the Druze moved away from Islam and were hated by the Muslims. Another offshoot of that were the Alawites. Yep. If the Druze are a Sunni version of Mormonism, the Alawites are a Shiite version of Mormonism.
Yeah.
So you've got these different factions, and somebody tied a big bundle together and said, you are now Syrians. Nobody wants to be Syrian. And like everything else in the Arab world, the only way to hold this together is by force.
Yep.
So there are military dictators in all of this. And the Hafez al-Assad and later on Bashar al-Assad, his sons, were a part of the Alawite minority that were ruling the country, but they were not a majority. They were always a minority. The only way they were ruling by power. Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, think about the Mormons in Salt Lake City in Utah, okay, being overthrowing the government in Washington and ruling all of the United States. That means anybody who wants to be in government has to be a Mormon. That means they're all interconnected. They're all married to each other. They all know each other. That was the situation until this overthrow. And let's make this clear, okay? El-Julani, the guy who overthrew them with the backing of Turkey, was he's no Christian lover or Jewish lover. He is an ISIS. But he hates the Alawites that were Hafez al-Assad's main supporters, which brings us to this. They are mostly concentrated in the coastal area north of Lebanon, in the Latakia area, Homs area, the northern Mediterranean shore. Okay, so let's tie all of that together. The northern Mediterranean shore is where the Russians had their bases. That's where the Russian influence was the greatest. Now the the Sunni majority is literally massacring the Alawites and the Christians in the northern part of Syria. Yep. By the way, not only Alawites, and last number I heard was 1,700, but we're thinking about 7,000 people have been massacred by the new Syrian army.
Yep.
James, why isn't the world yelling out?
They won't.
Where's the Columbia students yelling out about this? They won't.
They won't. And keep this in mind. The population of Christians in Syria less than 20 years ago was 10% of the population. That's 1.5 million Christians were in Syria 20 years ago. Now that number is believed to be as low as 250,000. So you are talking about, literally, this is not a joke. You are talking about what I would perceive to be somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 600,000 Christians killed, while the other 600,000 have been displaced from their home. They are numbered amongst the Syrian refugees.
So the situation is dire. Everybody is there. Okay, so how does Israel get into this? The only major player in the Middle East right now is Israel. And what Israel has said to El-Julani is, first of all, we don't want you to be a threat to Israel. So Israel has taken out all of their strategic assets. So we have destroyed the Syrian Air Force on the ground for it not to fall into their hands. We're destroying Syrian ballistic missiles on the ground. But he's been starting to use helicopters with barrel bombs, basically. The Druze in the south have family ties with Israel. And Israel Katz and Netanyahu are on the verge of setting up a Druze autonomy on the southern part of Israel. It's a win-win situation. That means that along our border with Syria, there's going to be a pro-Israel self-autonomy that has family ties with people inside the Israeli government. And we have created a buffer zone between us and Syria on the southern part of Israel. And Israel has actually bombed a couple of Syrian assets in that buffer zone the day before yesterday. And I just now saw on the Israeli news, Israel Katz on the top of Mount Hermon, looking down on one side, going, down there is Damascus, down there is Beirut, literally on the top of Mount Hermon, actually saying that. So Israel has taken off the gloves and said, for our reasons, we don't want the territory, but we will make sure, one, that the Syrian nation will not be a threat to us, and we will look out to the people we are looking out for. Now, don't get me wrong. Israel doesn't like the Alawites. Hafez al-Assad was terrible, and we still haven't forgotten. And if Jacqueline is watching me, okay, I want you to hear this. We still haven't forgotten what they did to Eli Cohen.
That's right.
I mean, Eli Cohen, for those who don't know, was an Israeli Mossad operative that managed to become the main attaché of the Ministry of Defense. He was running the Ministry of Defense in Syria when the Russians helped the Syrians uncover him, and they tortured him and buried him somewhere. We don't even know where he is. We want him back. But what I'm trying to say, we don't like the Alawites, but the Alawites are so desperate right now because they're being massacred in the thousands that they have asked Israel for their support. They've asked us for our support. They're asking us to save them. Now, Israel's not going to go in and save the Alawites, but Israel now, with this new connection to Russia, might be using Russian assets because the Russians are players in this area, and that's how all of this ties together. But Israel hit about 30 targets last night.
So is this... Am I wrong in assuming that this could be the beginning of Israel acknowledging that Russia has some sovereign capacity in Syria?
Israel has acknowledged that many times. I don't know if you know.
Well, I know they've done it unofficially, obviously.
Oh yeah,
but I mean, is this some kind of an official, going to be written into an agreement where now they're going to be looking at some of the borders of Judea, Samaria as Russian sovereign territory?
No. I mean, we're talking about way back in Syria.
I'm talking about the Syrian border.
Yeah, we're not there. And here's the problem. What we haven't mentioned in all of this spaghetti is the only reason I said spaghetti. My mom made some amazing spaghetti when we came in. But the only reason I'm mentioning that is because we haven't talked about Turkey yet. And Turkey is a major player in all of this. And part of the reason that nobody's really making noise about Israel actually conquering parts of Syria is because Turkey has done the same.
Oh, yeah. And Turkey's out for revenge. Look, I'm going to just say this right now. If this was going on at the same time that Biden was still president, then Turkey would be completely in Syria, and there would be a full-blown war between them and Israel.
Yep.
And I'll tell you why, because Erdogan is still very, very enraged with what Obama did. And of course, you remember the situation. I mean, obviously, I don't have to get into the ins and the outs of this, but if you remember, the PKK, which, of course, was the terrorist organization that had been designated as such since 1997, was an organization that Obama actually helped and assisted. Now, he basically said he didn't do any such thing, what he helped and who he helped and assisted was the YPG, which is in essence, the YPG is PKK's Syrian affiliate. I mean, let's just get real about this. So when you start getting into them being assisted, Turkey is felt very, very angry by that because of the problem that Obama had with ISIS, his way of handling the ISIS problem, while at the same time appeasing Russia and Iran because of what was going on with the JCPOA, was by arming the YPG. And the problem is that caused the expansion of the SDF. The Christians, of course, were caught in the crossfire of that expansion, especially when we start getting into Manbij. And what actually ended up happening there, of course, that's when, if you remember, Operation Euphrates Shield was launched, and that was launched by Turkey. And then, of course, we brought in 500 special forces operators to join forces with the SDF to fight all of these sporadic attacks that were happening. And then again, what ended up happening was YPG became basically the proxy of the United States of America. And what we don't recognize is that created the condition that we see right now with Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. And in essence, I would argue that the Christians being killed right now, and even the Alawites for that matter, but the Christians especially, is a result of something Obama did a lot of years ago. If this was going on while Biden was the president, Turkey would own half of Syria right now and not even blink.
Well, I think we might find ourselves in some kind of Cold War, proxy war, call it what you want, in Syria between us and the Turks. I think the war between Israel and Turkey is going to be drawn somewhere along the lines in Syria, and Israel, seeing that coming, is making sure that we're preparing ourselves for that.
But you do have to keep this in mind. This is something to keep in mind, and this is an X factor that I want to throw in, okay? Because it's worth talking about. Erdogan really likes Trump. Trump likes Erdogan. It's a weird thing. I've seen them both talk well about each other. Trump thinks Erdogan is a very smart man, because he is. Don't get me wrong. He is. He's a very smart man. He's not to be underestimated. Erdogan seems to be distancing himself a little bit from the Islamic Brotherhood's rhetoric concerning the United States of America as a result of the relationship that he's always had established with Trump. And if there's ever a reason why you might not end up going to a war with Turkey, it would be because of the involvement that Trump is now trying to bring into play with Russia in order to negotiate with Iran, which, by the way, they rejected, which is good. That's good for Israel, and that's good for everybody else, which they, by the way, rejected. And that would mean that the thing that's left for them to deal with is the final frontier in Turkey. And I would be willing to bet that with Putin warming up to Trump and with Erdogan warming up to Trump, that you might end up finding something that would be mutually beneficial in its existence. Now, the only reason why I think that your assertion that the next frontier of war or the next war footing is going to end up being with Turkey is because of who used to be the foreign minister in Israel, who now is the security minister. And because Israel Katz has gone toe-to-toe, like literally, he has, even in his capacity as the foreign minister, he went nuts back and forth with Erdogan, publicly, very publicly. So they don't like each other. We don't even need to get into Bibi's position with respect to Erdogan. So something like this could happen. It's very interesting. So this
we're
is
living
all
in interesting times.
Unique.
Let's tie in Lebanon.
Oh, that's a big one too.
The American administration has put huge amounts of pressure on the Lebanese government to throw Hezbollah under the bus.
Yep.
And the agreement that was made at the end of the 2006 Second Lebanese War, okay, the 1701 agreement, says that Hezbollah should not be on the border with Israel in southern Lebanon. And it looks like, with the backing of the United States, that the Lebanese are moving into the positions along the southern Lebanese border. And
Yep.
now there are actually talks being led by the United States of actually defining the border, the southern Lebanese border. And we might reach some kind of a border agreement with Lebanon again. That derails all of the excuses for the Hezbollah to even be in a fight with Israel from Lebanon. So, again, what is happening? We see Saudi Arabia with the religious legitimacy, and the Lebanese with the resistance legitimacy. They are derailing the legitimacy of the resistance, if you want to call it that way. And the people are starting to see. And here's what's more than anything. And again, we go into the details, and it's easy to get lost in them. But the Muslim world, the Arab world, is realizing that they've lost. I think they're starting to realize, Muslims around the world and Arabs around the world are realizing that Israel is stronger than they thought. And there's a whole new reorganizing of the Muslim world along different lines that takes into consideration Israel as a powerhouse in the Middle East. And I
Well, I
think
mean, look at the meeting with the Arab League.
Yep.
They didn't come out as strong against Trump as everybody thought they would, and I called it. I said that would be the case.
By the way, Trump kicked their plan for Gaza down the street like an old tin can.
Oh yeah, like a tin can. And you know what? Nobody argued about it. Nobody gawked at it.
No,
I said this was going to happen.
Now, I don't think they actually thought or wanted or realized. I don't think they even thought that this could be an option. They threw that out just to say to Trump, listen, we can do it too. You know, Trump is saying, if you don't want my plan, come up with a better plan. And that's the best they could come up with. And it was kicked out by Israel and the United States and the Hamas. So we're in that in-between area. By the way, the rumors that I heard today is that there's a new agreement that's been agreed, and a few more hostages will be released. But we're getting very close to a point where Israel says, that's it. And we're going to go back in.
Let me ask you a question. What is the general mindset in Israel right now concerning this? I have to be careful how I say this. I'm going to just call it outright what it is. This negotiation with terrorists, with what's going on with, well, that's what it's being called by. That's what some people are calling it. With the United States of America talking to Hamas. Okay, I have a take on it, by the way, that's opposite of what the mainstream is saying, but I'll talk to you on that in a minute.
Okay, so let's start off with the beginning. Israel has its left wing, and our media is left wing also.
Oh,
one,
terrible.
two. The hostage situation is a political situation, is a military situation, and is also an emotional situation. And the question is this: do we amplify the emotional responses, or do we amplify the political responses? If you remember the Gilad Shalit event, 5 years, and they released 1,000 people, and it was very, very bad. And now we're realizing that part of October 7th was because of what we did with Gilad Shalit. And there are more and more Israelis who are realizing that, and more Israelis that are willing to say that more than ever before. Yep. The problem is, what do you say when you look into the eyes of somebody whose son is in there, or whose daughter is in there, or you saw the whole President Trump dynamic when they came to visit him at the White House, and that message that he sent out immediately afterward.
Oh yeah, he was emotionally moved by their stories.
Totally emotionally moved, but it didn't strengthen his need to reach an agreement. It strengthened his resolve to put the Hamas down,
to destroy them.
Yeah,
but then days later, Witkoff is having conversations with Hamas.
Oh no, they've been having conversations with Hamas since January. You know that.
Well, yeah, but let me rephrase it. Witkoff is now making it public.
Well, here's the thing: he's backed down. And yesterday, Witkoff says that was a one-time. Day before yesterday, he says that was a one-time event and it will not happen again. And the guy who was running those backdoor negotiations, I don't remember his names, was taken off the roster. And here's the main reason. They tried, and if they tried, but they realized that Hamas is not going to give them what they want. So I think they've kind of backed down. And what President Trump said very clear: I've given everything, Israel, everything that it needs in order to take this on. But there is another negotiation going on, and just a few minutes ago, I heard on the Israeli news that they're going to release 3 more hostages in this in-between stage 1 before we have a stage 2 of the negotiation. So we're still trying to figure out that one.
So, where do you think that whole thing is going? Because I think Israel is days away from just bombing the living heck out of Gaza.
Well, I'm going to say it like this, and I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said on public TV. Israel's called up more than 400,000 reservists.
Yeah,
and the tanks and the options are on the border of Gaza. We're ready to go back in and completely conquer Gaza, and that's what we think Israel is going to do. That's what I think Israel is going to do if this negotiation breaks apart. And the only reason we haven't done it yet is 1, the chief of staff is getting things in, and 2, we're giving Witkoff some kind of final chance to be able to say we did everything possible. But this time Israel is going to go in and completely take Gaza. And then the question is this: probably move everybody out. That's what I think. How do you say? Go through Gaza with a fine-tooth comb. Reminds me, I don't know if you remember the movie Spaceballs, where they comb the desert. And then there's a scene where they comb the desert. They're going to go through Gaza with a fine-tooth comb, and everybody who is affiliated of Hamas is either dead or gives in, and then decide whether they want to move them back or not. I think that is what's going to happen if this negotiation breaks apart.
Yeah, I think that they're pretty much already there. I think that the whole idea was that they entered into the negotiation with the general assumption that it would fall apart. I think it was done to show that they made reasonable efforts to mitigate the circumstances. I think it's a Trump tactic. I think that Bibi's learning very quickly, because he's an astute political figure, the tactic that Trump is taking, in that he's wanting to be able to say, we tried every reasonable avenue we could pursue. We did everything we could to mitigate the specific circumstance. We went out of our way to make sure that there was no avenue we did not go down in order to create a condition of peace. But they don't want it.
And the Arabs have said again and again, we don't want it. My main issue is the Egyptians, by the way. They're the main pivotal issue on this one. I'm not sure I really realize what's going on with Egypt. Assisi is dancing a weird dance. Not completely sure. The tunnels have closed off in the Rafah, and Syrian officers who had become millionaires off of that are losing a lot of money. There's been growing pressure on that one. The Suez Canal is not functioning the way it is, and the last thing they need is for the Houthis to start firing again. So I'm going to say Egypt is between a rock and a hard place. Yeah. But I'm going to say that even if the Egyptian government supports peace agreement with Israel and supports some kind of cooperation with Israel, the Egyptian people hate Israel.
I mean, it depends on who you're talking to. There's a good solid faction within the Egyptian, within Egypt, that very much actually, I'm not going to say love Israel, but view Israel as an asset to the existence of their country.
I think specifically, it's more than the elites. The people at Tahrir Square, do they believe that?
But that's a different. See, but that's a different thing. You're talking about the group of what I would call Americanized Egyptians who have taken on the same type of poison that your leftist groups in Israel have taken on. It's the same type of mentality, the self-loathing, bull caca nonsense. But if you go into Upper Egypt, for example, the southern part of the country, you're going to find a lot of people that understand that the betterment of Egypt as a whole started when the peace treaty was made. I mean, they look at that, and it's amazing to me that when you start getting closer and closer and closer up to the Sinai area, when you get near the Red Sea area and Sharm el-Sheikh and some of these other areas, there is a growing population of people that don't like Israelis and actually don't even like Americans, even though Israel and America are the hands that feed that economy that's in Lower Egypt. So I think it's just a really interesting thing. By the way, for everybody's information, when I say Lower Egypt, that means the northern part of the country. When I say Upper Egypt, it means the southern part of the country. Just so that there's no confusion amongst people if I sound a bit contradictory to myself. So this is kind of an interesting thing. By the way, you want to hear something hilarious, David? This will just make you laugh.
Okay.
One of the last videos that I did, I got a bunch of comments where people basically said that I didn't know what I was talking about, and if I knew anything about the Egyptians, then maybe I would make a different video. Is that hilarious?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you get a comment,
people that clearly don't watch me.
Well, if you get a comment that says, David doesn't know anything about the Israelis, okay, then.
Well, we've had a couple of those comments. Like, who do these guys think they are? They're sitting down and talking about people they don't know when they don't realize that there's an Egyptian and a Jew that's having a conversation every week.
And if you want anybody in the world that can talk to you about what's happening on the Gaza border, I've served on the Gaza border many, many times.
I know. I think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious. And I do want to say this because I think it's really important. You spent a good portion of your military career on two borders, on the border in Gaza and the border in Lebanon. Some of the two most widely contested hotspots that we continue to talk about. And I spent my whole life hearing stories about Lebanon and Gaza and Yemen from my own mom and dad. So I think it's kind of hilarious when you sit down and talk about this, because what the left-wing media is projecting to people that don't know any better is completely different from what's actually happening in the real world.
Which always seems to me hilarious. It seems to me, listen, my dad was an aircraft mechanic. May he rest in peace. So I was into airplanes ever since I was a little kid. So I read a couple of very nice scientific books when I was about 14 about how an airplane flies and the different axes and the ailerons and the rudder, and you turn it this way and you push it this way. I was sure at the age of 14 that I knew how to fly a plane. I knew that. I'd read the book and I was sure. And I remember my dad saying, "You have no idea." I said, "No, I understand." And it's people who are flying planes from their simulators who believe that they have an understanding of the situation.
It's so true. It's so true. And by the way, I want to tell you something that I'm very warmed in my heart over, which, by the way, it was Pookie reminded me of this. I can't read all of Pookie's text because I'd get busted on YouTube. But the one thing that I will say about this is it is very lovely. It is very nice to watch Marco Rubio revoke the green card of an animal at Columbia who was encouraging anti-Semitism and was protesting on behalf of Hamas. Do you realize they're kicking him out of the country now?
Yeah. Now, I think they arrested somebody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I want to add
these people out of the country now.
I want to add on something else. When Marco Rubio was talking about, I think, about the situation in Gaza, one of the things that he did, it was during Lent. And he actually got on public television with
the cross on his head.
On his forehead. That would have been inconceivable.
Oh, could you imagine?
It would have been. You can have a member of Congress with a kafia or a hijab standing on the floor, but you couldn't have somebody with a cross. And the fact that he was with an ash cross on his forehead, again, I mean, I don't know much about the tradition, the Catholic traditions of Lent, and I don't know much about that, but that was a warm sign that the world is moving in a different place.
Oh yeah, 100,000,000,000%. It's by the way, it is interesting as well to see how the environment is changing even with Russia. I mean, we talked about it briefly, but to touch up on what's going on there right now is just very interesting. We're beginning to find out that Russia actually told Assad to leave. That just came out this week. So it's just interesting. By the way, I do before we
where is the Security Council? Where are the United Nations? Where is the CCC? I mean, literally, they're making people crawl and bark like dogs in the streets of Syria, and then slaughtering them, literally publicly. Why don't I hear a war crime tribunal coming together? It's crazy.
I will tell you that this is indicative of the kind of hypocrisy and satanic inspiration that we continue to see. It's a very selective mindset. I mean, you ever wondered why Palestinians are permanent refugees?
Oh.
It's well, like they've been refugees for the last 60 years.
Well, here's my question, the big one. I'm going back on to the Goodyear blimp. Is this going to continue, or are we going to get another Democratic government after this that's going to go wacko? According to what I saw with Newsom, he doesn't have a chance.
Well, I'm never going to say that about Gavin Newsom. I'm always going to tell people to take him seriously because he's scarier to me than AOC is. He is a dark horse, and he knows how to turn on the charm, and he knows how to get people to think something that really isn't there. This is a slimy guy who ended up avoiding being recalled, which is statistically an impossibility, but he did. So in the midst of some of the worst governing that we've ever seen. So I'm never going to say that that's not a possibility. I think we need to continue to have him being exposed. That's for sure.
And we need to continue to applaud J.D. Vance, hoping that he'll get his feet underneath him enough to be able to replace Trump in 3.5 years. 3 years.
Or whoever it's going to be. By the way, I do want to bring this out before you bring up the next subject, because this is really important. Bartjan wanted to say, "May the force be with you." And then, we have investigative reporters that work with us every now and again. And one of our investigative reporters found this picture, David, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. I have to put you on the spot because you got caught in the act. So I'm going to have to show everybody this picture. You got caught in the act, bro. That's good. Dale was the one that caught that. He's the one that found that picture of you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, bro.
We were supposed to be a secret organization, Dale. Come on.
I love it. I got to tell you, I absolutely love it.
Dale's choking up right there.
All right. So on to the next subject. I know I cut you off.
I don't have
Go
a lot
ahead.
of time because you're gonna lose me in a few minutes. But I want to talk about Gal Gadot. I have to talk about Gal Gadot.
Okay, let's do it. This is very important, guys. I need you to tune in on this, please, David. Talk about this. It's important. And
okay.
If you're gonna listen, guys, during any part of this, this is what you got to listen to.
So let's start off. Gal Gadot is an Israeli. She's a model. She's an actress. She won the Miss Israel pageant after serving in the military. Israel's small enough that I know her personally, meaning I've met her a couple of times when she came to the hospital. I had a nephew that was sick with cancer, and she came to visit. So I know who she is and I know what she is. But she is one of the most beautiful women in the world. I will say that without, Christy would agree with me on this one. And she's also Wonder Woman. So anybody who knows who Gal Gadot is, she's the Israeli actress who plays Wonder Woman. Now, ever since the 7th of October, she's been very careful to stay out of the politics of the controversy. She has stated that she was supportive. The left tried to cancel her in the beginning, but didn't really get to that. And that became a part of the dynamic, but she did weather that. But she's been careful to stay relatively quiet about the whole thing. She was cast to play, listen to this, the evil witch in the new Snow White movie. The evil, what do we call it? The evil queen?
Yeah. The evil witch. I don't know.
The evil queen?
Whatever. Yeah.
Okay. And Disney, in its wokeness, its wokeness, stupidness, decided to cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White. Now, Rachel Zegler, I mean, she played in, I think, West Side Story, but she is definitely not white. And Snow White was called Snow White because she was white. I think she's from Colombia, and she's very, very woke. And in her very wokish, entitleish, I'm the bossish kind of way, actually threw the whole Snow White idea under the bus. Now, anybody who knows anything about Disney, Snow White was the first full feature animation that Disney made. I mean, this is what made Walt Disney
Very, very
Walt Disney
famous.
World.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys. We all watched Snow White as a kid. I mean, we all watch. I mean, I mean, you're going to get this. I'm going to go hi ho twice, and everybody's going to be continuing it into
I'm
the
never
night.
going hi ho. I'm never going hi ho.
Hi ho, hi ho. It's up to work we go. I mean, this is part of what America grew up on. And Rachel Zegler said, I didn't like the movie. It's not about the prince. The prince was a stalker, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, here's the problem. I don't know who makes the casting decisions, but the evil stepmother was supposed to be jealous of the beauty of Snow White. And ask Dale if he can find a picture of Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler at the Oscars just now and put them one next to the other. If you could bring that picture up, nobody in their right mind could believe that Gal Gadot would be envious of Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, there's no way. There
Okay.
is no way. There is no way. Not even
Now,
close.
Rachel Zegler started to get into the politics. Now, Gal Gadot was very quiet about it, but Rachel started free Palestines on her YouTube, on her Instagram channel, and saying all kinds of things like that.
What an embarrassment, by the way. Can I just talk about that? That's at
Yes,
the
please.
level of Chuck Schumer. I'm sorry. It's just so ridiculous. But we'll just leave it be. Anyway, go ahead.
Wait,
I'm going to
here's
lose
the
my
thing.
mind.
Okay. One of the things I need to talk about the Hollywood influencers. Why do we take seriously the words of people and the ideas of people and the how do you say, the opinions of people who are by definition professional liars?
Not to mention, by definition, they're professional liars. This woman actually has Hebrew names attached to her.
No, but here's the
what
thing.
What are you talking about?
An actor is supposed to professionally lie to us. Why do we take their opinion seriously? Anyway, long story short, the whole Snow White thing has gone down the rabbit hole. I mean, she's ruined the movie, and Gal Gadot has stayed out of it for the whole way. But Rachel Zegler is kind of making an issue. She's this young, entitled, Latino, whatever you want to call, and Gal Gadot has the magnificence of a Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And Gal decided last week that she couldn't take it anymore. And after the Oscars, she got up before a Jewish group and basically laid out who she was. And she started it off like this, and I literally have tears in my eyes just saying it. She says, I'm Gal and I'm Jewish. And she said, I'm saying this again. I'm Gal and I'm Jewish. And she didn't say Israeli. She said afterwards, she said Israeli. But what I think is impressive here is that we as Israelis and we as people living in the States, we've realized that we might be Israelis, we might be whatever we think we are, but we're back at the beginning. We're Jewish. And God took the gloves off, and I don't know what it's going to do to her Hollywood career. I don't know what that's going to happen, but took her gloves off and stood up proudly in front of the whole world. One of the most beautiful women in the world, by the way, and the most amazing, and basically reminded everybody who she was. Turns out that she, on one side, is a Holocaust survivor, and on the other side is
Yes.
eighth generation Israeli.
Yes.
Eighth generation in Jerusalem. That's who we are. And she's an amazing representative. So if you can get the pictures of Gal and Rachel Zegler at the Oscars, just look at the difference between the two women. And if you can find the clip of Gal Gadot explaining who she is and what she is, it's worth connecting to. And I think all of us need to stand up for who we are. And again, I'm going to say this to myself and to all of the Christians that are listening to this. Stand up for who you are. Stand up
Amen.
for what you are.
Yep.
Stand up, because the enemy doesn't care whether you are or professing it or not. The enemy doesn't care if you are saying it publicly or not. You're going to be persecuted. You're going to be hunted down. You will be in the crosshairs of Satan, whether you do. And again, we as Jews know this. And again, the Holocaust, there were Jews who tried to, oh, no, let's not make an issue. No, they're going to find us. The Inquisition was a Catholic organization that was put together to root out Jews who were not admitting to their Judaism.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know, and again, stand up, and God did it so beautifully. This is who I am. This is what I am. You can like it or you cannot like it. And again, when it comes from somebody who is the epitome of the Hollywood, look at the she came from a different country with a weird accent and became a Hollywood, A star, A level star. And I mean, if she is the Hollywood story, she's the Hollywood story. And they tried to cancel her because she's Jewish, and she stands up and she says, "This is who I am, and I'm proud of who I am." And it was
And
very,
and
very interesting to see.
I think the only thing that could have made that moment better is if somebody got up there and basically said, "My name is so and so, and I love Jews." Could you imagine? Could
Well,
I
I want to tie it to what we said before. Gal Gadot stood up and said, "I'm Gal and I'm Jewish." Okay. Marco Rubio stood up and said, "I'm the Secretary of State, but I'm Christian." I mean, there's nothing wrong with people standing up. I mean, why should all the different minorities be accepted? Why
I
should all
agree.
the different religions be accepted and not us?
I agree.
And I'm
I
saying us
agree.
because I'm on both sides. I'm Jewish and Christian.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I agree. And it's funny because there's so much nonsense that has driven this. The thing that continues to drive me crazy is the level of ignorance people have. They don't know what river. They don't know what sea. They don't know our culture. They don't know Middle Eastern languages. They don't know what people are thinking. They have no idea to determine, decipher. This is all just hilarious to me. It's just hilarious.
And one of the things that I think Westerners don't really understand is the different mindset. I mean, he is going to kill Jews because they're Jews, no matter what the Jews did to them.
Yep.
Yihya Sinwar put together the 7th of October after a Jew his life from brain cancer.
Yep.
Ismail Haniyeh pushed this together, even though the Jewish doctor saved his daughter twice. I mean, it doesn't matter. Their hatred of Jews has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with the two-state solution. And Westerners don't understand that. And I think, well, we understand it now. By the way, I'm gonna add myself to the list. I sat with Palestinians. I thought, wait a minute. Okay, I know you don't like us. I don't like you, but in how do you say, in the name of finding a better life for you, your kids, and your grandkids, you'll be willing to accept me, and I'm going to be willing to accept you. And we found out that that was wrong.
Well, I sat here. In this studio, I sat here with a guy who was one of the highest ranking members of the Shabbat 15 years ago. You got to meet him. He spoke Arabic like he was born in Egypt. I mean, the guy was a very. I was sitting here, very smart man, and he's sitting with Yahya before he even goes to get his brain surgery done, and he's interrogating him. And Yahya says, "I'm going to come back for you one day, and I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
You're going to free me from this place, and I'm going to kill you." I mean, think about the mindset of these people.
I'm glad to say Yahya is dead, but I think the most potent ray of hope that I see right now is the fact that the United States of America has the strongest military in the world, the strongest economy in the world, and has a leader who understands this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And like we tend to say, the United States has a president who speaks Arabic.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. He understands the mindset.
Yeah.
He understands the mindset. He has a very deep-rooted awareness of everything that's going on. By the way, did you see the interview with Tucker and the Prime Minister of Qatar?
No, I did not.
It's worth your while watching.
Okay.
I'm actually going to make a video covering some of it. It's interesting to see how well that guy lies through his teeth.
Okay, there's another dynamic. I mean, you say Tucker and I say Kaddis, and
yeah, I know it's the same. I know. Actually, Kaddis is way worse than Tucker. Way worse.
Yeah.
Tucker speaks openly and admittedly from a place of ignorance when it comes to this issue. Kaddis proclaims herself to be an expert, and just outright blood coming out of her mouth is just an absolute Jew hater.
Yeah,
she just is.
James, I'm gonna have to call it because I gotta go to sleep.
Okay, closing thoughts, ideas. What should we be expecting to see in Israel over the next few days? I think it's going to go hot, personally, in this area of Gaza. I think we're going to probably see some things in the jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority. We're already watching some heat increasing in Judea, Samaria. Give me some thoughts on what to be looking for.
Right now, I think Israel and Hamas are playing chicken. The only difference, though, that is Israel is playing chicken with a 56-ton main battle tank, and Hamas is playing chicken with a motorcycle and an RPG.
If okay,
yep. Yeah, and again, but they are playing chicken right now, and in chicken, you just have to decide that you're going to go. That's the idea. And I think Israel has a leadership. Bibi, okay, and again, everybody's all excited about what Bibi is doing. I still hold him responsible for the 7th of October, just so you know, because he was on the impeachment. We're going to go down there if you want. But I think
we're going to have an argument about that one day. Me and you are going to sit down and talk about it. How can anybody say that after finding out what these people hid from him at the time that all of this was going on? Okay, how in the world can how can anybody say that when the internal intelligence was kept from him, and the evidence of that just came out this last week?
So we'll have that argument, but I'm going to say what I used to say about Trump losing the elections in 2016. I mean, if he didn't know that there was a fraud on that level, then he is not doing his job as commander-in-chief.
Fair enough. I would accept your premise there. Okay, I think that's reasonable.
So if Bibi is being led through the nose by the Shabak and whoever and completely getting the wrong information, then that is part of his responsibility also. I mean, I am holding him responsible for that. But let's kind of go to that. But I'm going to say this. Right now, it's going to see who's going to blink first. And I think Israel is saying very clearly, with the new administration behind our back, we're not going to blink.
I agree.
we're calling up the soldiers and we're calling up the military and we're saying what this. They offloaded 2,000 one-ton bombs in the Ashdod port yesterday.
I
No,
know.
a
I
couple
know.
of days ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know if you know what a J dam is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so you can do that. There was a joint military exercise over the Mediterranean Sea with a B-52 and a 2 Israeli F-35s.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if you understand, B-52s are strategic bombers. They're not
Oh, yeah.
something to take out a target. So if the United States is doing joint exercises with B-52s and Israelis F-35s, it is indicating a different kind of dynamic that is happening. So
Oh, 100%.
Israel is actually saying, okay, let's call your bluff, Hamas. Let's see what's going on. Hamas is being told by Israel and by the United States, he said, if you don't get out of there, you're dead, basically.
Yep.
And he said to the people of Gaza, if you're going to harbor hostages, you're going to die. He said it. But again, backdoor hostage negotiations. By the way, I'm sure there's more backdoor hostage negotiations going on. I am
There has
sure.
to be. Yeah.
I'm sure there are. But anyway, so we're now rushing one towards the other in the middle of the LA River, playing chicken. What movie was that? Grease, I think. Playing chicken, and we're going to see who's going to budge. But I think Israel's not going to budge this time.
Yeah, I don't think Israel is going to budge either. I will tell you that I'm also relieved to find out that the people of Israel are beginning to change their outlook on things. They're not buying into the liars that are on the left. I'll give you one great example. It's been fun watching Yair Lapid making a complete donkey of himself. He is, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest jokes right now in Israeli politics. It's also funny watching Bennett just run around with his head in between his legs, too. That's how you know. By the way, there's a good way to tell that Bennett is lying. Like, he has a tell. Like, if you look at him and you study him, you'll know when Bennett is actually lying. And I'll tell you what the tell is. You want to know what the giveaway is? His mouth is opening. His mouth is opening. That's how you know he's lying. Him and Lapid, they're both. It's just funny how they're scattering like just a couple of jokes. Like, did you see this thing with Lapid being interviewed the other day where he's screaming and yelling at the top of his lungs saying, we're the majority, we're the majority. You're the majority in whose dream, stupid?
No. And again,
give me a break.
This is like the Democrats.
It's like Al Green. It's like Al Green making a fool of himself it's like, dude, it's like the Democrats not clapping for a little black kid with cancer. It's the same thing. The only time those morons started clapping was when they were talking about 5 more years of war in Ukraine.
By the way, before I forget, pray for my nephew. He's just gotten his paratrooper beret, little Amiel. So he's on his way in. I got, nephews in reserve. We're going to be here, me and Christy, looking for ministries for Gijón Springs to support.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Check out the links below. And if you know anything or you want to connect anything, send me messages either here or through the Balagan connection. But Gijón Springs is on the ground in Israel right now. And we'll be up visiting some of my army buddies up on the Golan Heights and different organizations here. So that's what we're going to be doing here.
Boy,
and
take some photos. Take some photos from the Golan Heights, if you can.
Will do.
And if you can, also take some photos from the Herodian, because I hear you're going to go up there again, right? Is that my understanding?
Yep. Hopefully, yeah. Last time I almost died on the Herodian.
Yeah, you told me the story. I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine.
So,
I mean,
pray
looking at it from 100 miles away is ominous. If you guys know what that looks like, if you're 100 miles away and you can see it on a clear day, it's crazy. It looks like somebody took a mountain and literally just with a saw just cut it right off. And what you don't know, if you've ever been there, is it's literally like almost like a hollow mountain that was made hollow. I mean, by one of the greatest builders in ancient history. But it's just to think about the fact that could work out that way. It's amazing.
and his tomb is halfway up the mountain, and I actually made it halfway up, and I thought I was going to die on his tomb.
Yeah, I don't even know how. I don't understand.
We'll talk
God bless you. You're going to come back to us like 50 pounds lighter, and you're going to look
Amen.
like you're all sucked up, man. I'm
Amen.
praying for your health. But don't overdo it, man. You just got fixed, so make sure you're safe. I want you to be healthy. You know, I want you to take care. We were praying. We didn't pray for you all this time so you could come out of your surgery healthy, only to find you just undoing it again. Don't be picking up anything heavy. Don't be doing anything crazy.
The heaviest thing I pick up right now is a lightsaber.
Good. All right, that's fair enough. That's about what, 8 pounds? That's good. All right. Well, let's close in prayer, bro. Any other final comments or thoughts?
Well, just pray for us. If it does turn into a shooting war, it's going to get scary here. So, just pray for us. And I'm sitting right next to maybe next time we'll go into the safe room and show you what a safe room looks like in Israel.
Well, and David, if it does get that way, then let me know and we'll go live and we'll have a conversation.
Okay.
But in the meantime, we'll see you next week. Yes?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Go ahead and pray for us, bro. Let's close it. Actually, I'm going to pray. I want to pray for you. I'm going to pray for safety for you and Christy and everybody else coming. Father, in Jesus' name, we just thank you so much, Lord, for David. We thank you for Christy. We thank you, Lord, for the blessing of the Tall family, the ministry that they have, Lord, across the country and around the world. And we pray, God, for your blessing upon all of them, Lord. I thank you, Lord, for the fact that David gets to sit with his family, reunite for a little while, spend some time with them, Lord. Keep them all safe. Watch over them, Lord. Bless the ministry of Gihon Springs. Allow it to grow through this time. Let the filmmaking that's going on just go well. Let it be just a great time, Lord. Keep Justin safe as he flies out there, Lord. Be with everybody. Be with the whole family. We love you, Father. We thank you. We look to you, and we ask these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Habibi, I love you.
Take care.
Okay, you guys. Tell everybody what you just said. Most people wouldn't understand what you just said, but it is a beautiful statement.
Well, usually you say Shana Haba Yerushalayim. I'm going to be in Jerusalem. It means next year in Jerusalem.
Yeah,
and I'm in Jerusalem this year. I'm excited.
That is a very exciting thing.
I'm going to be up in Jerusalem tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I'm jealous. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I'm jealous. You're just going to go walk around, or you have a meeting with anybody?
I'm going up, and we're starting the tour and kind of all kinds of stuff, all kinds of dynamics.
Oh my goodness, bro! What a blessing! What a blessing! All right, bro. Well, have fun. I love you. Be safe. Send me pictures. Keep me up to speed on what's going on. We love you guys. Shalom.